Welcome, everybody. My name is Jim Rooney. I really appreciate you joining us today. This is one of a set of conversations we're doing about my father, Dan Rooney, and his approach to his professional life. I recently wrote a book called A Different Way to Win, Dan Rooney's story from the Super Bowl and the Rooney Rule. And instead of having me just talk about the book, I thought I'd bring a few friends along. So these are some players that knew my father well, and I think they really share some of the successful qualities that my father's known for. So today with us is Will Allen. Will played 12 seasons in the NFL. He had two stints with the Steelers between 2010 and 2012. He's part of the 2010 AFC Championship team. He now leads the Will Allen Foundation, a foundation dedicated to supporting young children through education and real life experience. And he works in the venture capital business. Will, great to have you today. Next is Dwayne Woodruff. Dwayne played for the Steelers for 12 seasons, won Super Bowl 14 with the team, was voted team MVP in 1982, but now we know him as the judge. Dwayne is serving as a justice on the Allegheny Court of Common Pleas. Good to have you today, Judge.
Great to be here. Thank you so much.
And finally, my friend Edmund Nelson. Edmund and I spent a lot of time on the speaking circuit together. He was the seventh player drafted by the Steelers in 1982. He played 7 seasons in the league, 6 with the Steelers. We won't say who that other team was. He spent several years as a color analyst for the team. He's also a successful business leader in the community, owning a State Farm insurance agency here in the Pittsburgh area. Ed, it's great to see you, even virtually.
Hey, good to see you, Jim.
So, I want to talk a little bit about my father's business acumen, and each of you folks have successful careers. When I think of that, I think about, there's that phrase, he or she has a mind for business. And what I think folks are saying is, they're prepared for the challenges and opportunities in business. So, as I said, each of you, I think, has shown this business acumen and built successful professional careers yourself. And I think my father had great business acumen and you knew him well. So I want to have some conversations about that today. So I guess one thing he did really well was envision the future. And he had the ability to see far down the horizon and sort of know what was coming next. And then he had that great ability to connect the dots between today and where that future was going to be. And so he just wasn't sort of visionary or dreaming, but he was very strategic about that vision. So Ed, why don't I start with you? Can you talk about, any observations you have of my father's vision or being strategic in interactions you had with him?
Well, Jim, Dan had that quiet strength, man. He had that quiet confidence that, you could kind of look and see that he was always in control of everything that was going on around him. Like, he's always been a leader in the NFL, and you could tell that he had weight because the other owners always looked up to him. And I kind of modeled my professional career after football just by kind of watching your dad go through his own stuff because he was always about it. And I don't know whether Chuck got this from them, but I always remember Chuck saying, hey, you got to be about your life's work if you're not going to be playing ball here. And I took that very seriously. I'm like, well, I can't play forever. Now that I'm 60, I can tell you, I'm glad I didn't play forever. But being about your life's work, once I got out here in the professional ranks, man, it was easy for me. Just from being, just from observing your dad and the chief, also kind of going about what they needed to do and also being leaders in what they did. Approaching everything with that professional attitude that they always did. It wore off on me. And Jim, I got to tell you, when I was in the middle of it, I never really paid any attention to it. I didn't really know that they were having that much of an effect on me until I got to where I am right now.
Yeah, that's such a great piece. Dwayne, you played, I think there's only 3 players that played for Chuck longer than you. And he and my father, I talk about in my book and saw it in my life. They just were such a perfect fit. My father understood business. Coach Noel understood football. They didn't step on each other's toes, but they always worked together to make things better. And sort of that vision I talked about, they looked at a season or a team and said, here's where we're at, here's where we want to be. These are the pieces we have to put together. This is the direction we want to go. Do you want to share some experiences like that?
Dan he had that quiet strength. I agree with Edmund in regard to that. But a couple of things I really admired in regard to his relationship, with Chuck Noll, our head coach, and the players as well, is he not only understood business, but he understood people. And so you go to a meeting with Dan, and he'll sit there, and you'll wonder, is he ever going to say anything? And he's going to let you talk. He's going to let you say what you want to say. Everybody else, he's going to listen. And then at the end, he's going to come up with some profound solutions to whatever issues that we're having. And you think it's great then, but years later down the line, it's like, wow, did he actually see this coming? Did he know? Because of some of the things that he's done. And him and Chuck, both of them were sort of quiet. Chuck was not the rah-rah guy. He's going to sit there. He always believed that, you're here playing in the National Football League. I shouldn't have to motivate you. You should play and do what you're supposed to do. And Rooney, Dan had that same type of vision as well. That insightfulness that you need to be very successful in life. I remember, about 15 years ago when I was running for judge, we were out at the stadium because, your family always had events for charity for schools on the north side. And so I was there. It was my year running for the Court of Common Pleas. And Dan came over to me and says, Woody, come over here and stand with me. I'm getting ready to get an interview, and you need to be standing next to me. It may get you a few votes. And then the next day, for sure enough, they had me and his picture in the newspaper, and I'm sure that gave me enough votes so I could prevail to become a Court of Common Pleas. But that's just the insight that he had, not just for business, but for people. And I think that was extremely valuable that I take even today as I'm sitting on the bench and presiding over cases. You have to look not just at the incident that occurred, but also the people that are involved as well. And I take that every day from your father.
Wow. Thanks, Dwayne, and that's really nice. You would have won anyway, but it's a great story. So, Will, before I jump to you, I got to say one thing to these guys, because I grew up around Coach Noll too. I was a kid, and then went to high school, college, etc., where he had such an influence on my life. You guys remember when he would get quieter, you'd get more nervous because you knew it was, that quietness was worse the lower it went.
Isn't that the truth?
Oh yeah.
I always remember at training camp, if his voice was going down with the ball boys, that means one of us screwed something up.
Yeah.
Just check out the things that he was responsible for, though, Woody. When you start talking about that, not only was he attuned to everything that was going around the ball club, well, he was in tune to what was going on with society in general, and also in society as it relates to football, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, when you have a guy that's responsible for, minority coaches getting an interview with all NFL teams and bringing that to the forefront, that's a societal problem that he tried to correct even way back then when he brought it into the NFL. See, those types of things, that's trend-setting stuff, man. That's why Dan was so special.
Yeah, without a doubt. But, I do want to add this as well. I mean, he had a great teacher. When you look at the Chief, I remember when I came in 79, when I walked in the stadium, Three River Stadium, the first person I saw there was the receptionist. I don't know if Connie was there when you were there, but, she was there. She's the first person that greeted everybody when they came in the door, an African-American lady, and with a bright smile. And, it just calmed everything down that when I came in 79, I knew I was in the right place, with these people and the Rooneys as well. And again, it's a business, but at the same time, the Rooneys and Dan in particular ran it like a family business as well. And he made us feel like family.
Well, I every once in a while I'll go walk around the Super Bowl trophies. And one of my favorite things in the world to do is when I see Connie's name on the 4 Super Bowl trophies. That just means so much that, people don't even know what she did, but she was so important to the organization, welcoming everyone in. She organized a lot, worked in the ticket office. but that her name is on that Super Bowl trophy, to me, always said so much about what we try to be about.
I didn't realize that, so I'm about to take a closer look.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Will, I want to get you in. You saw my father at the tail end of your life. You knew about the Rooney Rule was in existence. Some of the challenges that exist because it is imperfect. Were alive during your career, but you also, I think, got to know my father and saw a guy at the latter stages where some of that vision had been realized. He had been President Obama's ambassador by that point. The Rooney Rule was enacted. The team had won a bunch of Super Bowl championships. What was that like, and did you learn anything about vision for what you're doing today?
No, absolutely. I've been really blessed to be around some great leaders and great coaches and great people, great men. Jim Tressel, great coach, great leader of men. And then, to play for your dad in that organization, I got drafted to Tampa. And I don't want to bash any leadership, but, I'm going to be honest, like it just sucked, and, it just did, they won a Super Bowl 2 years before I got there. People loved the organization because that's what they were used to. But I flourished as a person, as a man, when I came to the Steelers in 2010. It was like something illuminated in me because of the culture that was built, because of the people, and everyone, even though the business was football and winning, the business was also about how you engage with people in football and outside of football. And that was really encouraging, and that was really contagious amongst our team. And, I think that started in the 70s, early 70s, when things started to turn around and winning Super Bowls. And that, you talk about 30 years later, 40 years later, that this is actually happening still. That type of legacy and commitment to people and excellence really resonated with me. Because all you heard from, being in Tampa is, just the Pittsburgh Steelers, black and gold defense. Like, you really didn't know the inner workings of the culture. So that really helps me to understand how to manage people, how to manage the system, and how to treat people and treat the system. I was very surprised, when you got people working there for 30 plus years, 20 plus years, and they're loving their job every day. I would say, well, when you get tired of it, does this ever get old to you? They're like, no, because of how good, Dan treats us, right? He knows everybody. He shakes everybody's hand, whether we win or lose. He asks everybody about their families. He knows about them. He genuinely cares because he doesn't have to do that. He can sit in his office and do nothing. So that when I watched him do that to me, around the organization to, every worker, every player, whether they were undrafted free agent or the top guy, Troy Polamalu, it blew my mind away of what leadership should look like and what it should be. So I just gleaned from those experiences that I had. Your dad will come and wrap his arm around me and, just talk life sometimes, or talk football, or ask me what am I inspired about. It wasn't just, hey, how you doing, Will? Blah, blah, blah. It was just, it was really, we would sit down and eat a sandwich together and eat chips together. He would just sit there and just talk. For your leader and your business owner to be, to level the playing field that way, it encouraged you that, hey, maybe one day I can be a business owner. Maybe one day I can treat people like this and do things in a diligent way, but people and have a great deal of respect for people, no matter what their socioeconomic position is in life. That was really empowering to me. I know a lot of people may not have seen that, but that's what I saw every day, day in and day out.
Thanks, Will. That's really beautiful, frankly. So another piece of my father's life, I think, that goes to this business acumen is accountability. And I think any leader, any good leader knows accountability is important. So my father saw accountability as meaning, admitting when he was wrong, but the other piece of it was going all in. And times, if he felt this was the right decision, he was all in on it, and he wasn't worried about being criticized. And we can talk about it, a bunch of different examples. But Will, do you want to talk a little bit about, how you've learned about accountability and how that's playing out in your life now?
Absolutely. I think when I walked into the Steelers, I was expecting like this long laundry list of tasks to do, right? And they just say, hey, here's your responsibility. Here's what you do. This is the Steelers way. And you just knew you were accountable to that. And you didn't have to get, cracked across the head. Somebody didn't have to reprimand you. It was just this calmness and peacefulness about accountability that I've learned to adopt as well, where I don't have to like finger point or brow bash anyone for accountability. It's just built into and stitched into the culture. I was yelling and screaming and cussing at guys. And Ryan Clark came over to me and said, hey, man, we all treat each other with respect because we're all men here. And we're all accountable to each other. Like, we don't have to yell at each other. We're all brothers here. And you see that man standing over there with them suspenders and his pants up here? He was like, he leads the charge in that. And we learned from him. And you see that man right there, that old guy standing right there that looks like he's 60, but he's really 80. He like, that Dick LeBeau, like he leads like that too. And like, that's the way we all treat each other. So it blew my mind because again, that accountability just resonates. So I try to take those practices, man, into what I do every day.
Ed, you talk about my father sort of in that global sense of taking account for, issues beyond football, using his platform in football to really take account in a pretty major way. Do you want to comment any further on that?
Yeah, well, in this day and age, Jim, where people pass the buck, nobody's accountable for anything, right? It's not his fault. It's his fault. It's not their fault. I can tell you, in corporate America, where I work, nobody accounts for anything. State Farm, everything comes back to me. People got to call me for something that the company did, And I don't have a problem owning up to it because I am, after all, these people's agent. Your dad had no problems being out front. No problems leading it. And the thing that struck me about Dan was his faith in what he was doing. There wasn't one day in my 7-year career, my 6 years with the Steelers, that I didn't know that he was in control and that we would be successful as a team because he was in control. And then he had Chuck. You know about the legacy. Everybody on this call knows about the legacy, knows that Tony Dungy's and all of the guys that went on to have great success, following the example of Dan and, of course, the Chiefs. So, yeah, I'm putting it out there. Yes, we are going to start interviewing minority coaches. This is just the way it's going to be. Let's vote on it, but it's going to have to be because look at the number of minority guys that we have playing in the league. It just makes sense. And also put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to take a leap of faith because if you take a leap of faith, the first thing you have to do before you take that leap is you got to have faith. And you got to have faith in what you're doing. If Dan had nothing else, he had faith in the way he did things and the way the Steelers organization did things, they were going to be successful. And there's a whole bunch of Super Bowl trophies sitting in that office over there showing that they had faith and they believed in it. And guess what? They were successful in doing it.
Dwayne, my father was, he was proud of all you guys, but the fact that you stepped up and became a judge and took accountability for the community that we live in the way that you have really was special to him. I don't know if he ever relayed that to you. I have to think on some level you sense that. What was that experience like? And the idea that you live every day having to be accountable to the community in a very particular and specific role.
Okay. Well, let me tell you this. Dan relayed that to me quite often. He would call and check to make sure things were going on. He was very involved in my campaigns as well. And I didn't have to call him. He'd call me, what do you need? What can we do? And he was just that special person. In regard to accountability, once he's in and he looks at it and says, this is the way we need to go, he sticks with it. I know he was awfully proud and satisfied with the direction I went and how I continued to work with families and young people as well, just as he did. You know, I remember walking with him. Also remember walking with your grandfather. Well, it's going to take us a long time to get down the street because he's going to want to talk to every person that comes around. I mean, he's like shaking hands with everybody. And I know that, you know, a number of them just saw him for the first time, but he make them feel as if they've been friends their whole lives. And that's just how he looked at people, how he looked at society as well, and his faith in the Lord. I think that is as well. You know, he influenced not just the National Football League, particularly with the Rooney Rule, but also all companies throughout the world as well, because a number of companies, many companies have adopted the Rooney Rule to sort of level the playing field for all of us as well.